Zach, let's talk about this secondary because this is a really important one.
Yeah, for sure.
As we already previously mentioned, this is your big question mark. Your big question mark. Just to kind of open things up, Zach, we're going to preview the whole secondary. But in terms of the big question mark, I think you feel a lot better about safety than you do the DB positions.
Yeah.
You feel better about those.
Wherever Major Burns and
group as a whole,
Greg Brooks are playing, I'm okay.
Which it sounds like, okay, I really loved Greg Brooks in his role last year.
Yeah, I did too.
But it sounds like they're running him at the nickel right now, and Andre in the safety. So go ahead, Zach. I mean, kind of what are your thoughts right off the top here for the secondary group?
It is the most concerning group for sure, and that has proven to be true in fall camp early on.
Yeah.
You have to select. I'll tell you what though, my nerves about it is calming a little bit. Because of what we've heard from Deuce and because of what we've heard from Andre Sim. Deuce. By the way, he told us like we told him like, man, he was like,
we'll try.
Tigers Avenue. Y'all need to help me out. Like the stadium needs to know. Like
that's what Syracuse did for him.
Deuce. So
love it.
I'm excited that Deuce is having a really good fall so far.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like when you think about like just out of fall camp so far, like names that have been mentioned. We mentioned Kamorian Pimpton. We mentioned Lunsford. We've mentioned Zalance Hurd and Deshaun Womack. Like there's been names that have been mentioned. And two of the biggest names out of fall camp has been two guys that play for your secondary.
Great.
And two guys that look like they have kind of taken the reins potentially on two starting spots in the secondary. Because coming into the season, there was 3 open spots. I mean, you didn't know who your corners were going to be, and you didn't know who's going to be your nickel, and there's potential safety spot open. Where's Greg Brooks going to play? Well, it just depends on who are the 3 other guys. Seems like right now, Greg Brooks, they have him kind of slotted at the nickel position, as you mentioned, and that Major Burns is going to play that strong safety position. So who do we feel at the corner spots, and who do we feel at the free safety position? Well, 2 of those guys have taken massive steps up in filling those positions, in Deuce Chestnut and in Andre Sam. So who fills the other position? That's going to be interesting. I think, as Holden mentioned, let's get back to our comments here. Holden said Welch looks pretty good. I think I would love to see LaTerrence Welch take another corner spot. I think him and Zai are probably battling there for one of those other spots. I would love to see Welch take it. I mean, whoever it's going to be, great job on them. Welch just seems like one of those guys, man, that he just works. He's working really hard to, be that guy. And he is so bought into LSU, man. I mean,
he could eventually find himself on the field. Could eventually.
You think back to like when, Eli Ricks left, right? And Dwight McGlothern said we were going to be great together. And LaTerrence Welch tweeted, "Let's go be great together," right?
Yeah. And then Dwight stabbed him in the back.
And then Dwight left. It was kind of brutal. But like, man, I really wish, that LaTerrence Welch has a great season. I really wish that for him. And maybe it's not in a starting position, but maybe he gets a lot. Maybe he's the Harold Perkins of this year. Who knows? I don't know. I would love that for him. He's a guy that I'm really rooting for, honestly. So I'm really excited. I had to include him in our thumbnail.
Yeah.
Obviously, I had to include the other guys that have their names have been mentioned as much, and then obviously Denver Harris. I mean, he gets asked about a lot because he was a massive, massive recruit. Obviously, 5-star transfer from Texas A&M. Can Bree work with him and kind of rein in, his wild child streak, right?
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of questions about him. And we'll have to see. Speaking of him, Robert RP said Harris is good. He's just young and hasn't realized his potential yet on a new team. I hope that's the case because we know the talent's there. So let's see how the rest of it. Stephen, in mentioning Denver, said I think he'll take a little bit more time to get his head right and gain trust. We'll see. RP does mention though Jordan Allen, and that's another name that I've seen mentioned here and there out of fall camp. I got to be honest, RP. I think Jordan Allen is going to be a rotational piece. I don't foresee him getting massive reps. I think maybe he's a guy that next year, you look at and you go, he'll be in his third year, right? Because he was a freshman this past year, right, Reagan?
Well, yeah, but he'll be in his third year, but he redshirt. Yeah,
he'll be in his third year, so he'll be a redshirt sophomore. So maybe next year is potentially Jordan Allen's year. We'll find out. It all depends on what happens this year. We got to wait and see, but he's another piece there. When you have this type of situation with the secondary, like LSU has this year, where there's just a lot of question marks, guys got to step up. You got to have some guys that are going to step up. So who's going to be those guys? And I'm not saying who knows, down the line, it may be Jordan Allen. It may be LaTerrence Welsh. It may be Jordan Taviano. We haven't even mentioned Jordan
Ashton Stamps.
It might be Ashton Stamps. There's names. There's plenty of names to mention. There's a lot of young talent. You got the transfers as well. There's plenty of names that you can mention. But who is it that's going to step up? And honestly, Reagan, I don't know. I don't know right now. We're hearing names from fall camp, but when we get into full pads and they are under the lights and you're playing Florida State and Orlando, who's going to be the guys that step up and make plays? That's going to have to be a wait and see.
See, that's why I like guys. So here's why I think we're hearing a lot about Deuce and Andre. Both of them have a lot of college football experience.
Correct.
Deuce obviously has Power 5 experience.
Correct.
Andre, I think, is in his 6th year of college football. Seventh. Okay, yeah, I think you're right. So, lots of college football experience for both of these guys, and I think that experience shows in both of them. Zai has college football experience at Southeastern, 2 years, in fact. So, those guys who have real experience seems to be the ones who are kind of starting to claim spots, if that makes any sense, which doesn't surprise me at all. In fact, I kind of like it because you feel more secure with those type of guys. But in terms of some things we've been hearing, and this is what I was talking about. Thank you, John Turner. Things I wanted to talk about what we've been hearing out of fall camp in terms of secondary. Number one, Ashton Stamps has been playing with the 2s and rotating in with the 1s occasionally. He is a guy to look out for as a true freshman. People think that Ashton Stamps was overlooked majorly in his recruitment because of his size. He was undersized as a DB in high school. Now he has come to LSU and has put weight on, looks the part, and is playing really well. And if you remember, we talked about it on the show. Ashton Stamps came to one of the football camps that LSU puts on, and at his size, before he put on the weight he has now, this was when he was, going into his senior season of football in high school. And he came in and went up nose to nose with Shelton Sampson, and went up with Shelton Sampson in high school as well at Rummel. And obviously Shelton Sampson came from Catholic High and had some success. And he was one who came to camp and was probably the highlight of the camp was Ashton Stamps. Yeah. Some other big names were there, like Lance Hurd was at that camp, and he really impressed. But everybody expected him to. Like, the surprise highlight of the camp was Ashton Stamps. And we talked about how he played really well. And, LSU has now offered him. Ultimately, he ends up at LSU because they offered him. They offered him after that camp because of what he did at camp. So now here he is with more size because of what Jake Flint and their staff has done with him. And he's already, as a true freshman, rotating in with the ones. I think we have a special player in Ashton Stamps. I think he was one who was overlooked because of his size. And now he's literally already put on like 15 pounds and looks a lot better. So I think he's a guy to look out for. I really do. I'm excited about Stamps. J.K. Johnson, speaking of transfers in Denver, looks like J.K. Johnson has broke his leg. So I don't. I'm not 100% on that. I'm not 100% on that. But it's going to take him a little bit. It looked like he broke his leg. And typically when you break a bone, being a 20-something-year-old in college, it's probably going to take him about 7-8 weeks for it to heal fully, and then he's going to start kind of progressing in like getting back in. So if you see J.K. Johnson, like, we're talking into the season. So I don't know what to think about that, and I'm not 100% confirmed that he's broke his leg. So don't quote me on that. Don't quote me that. I don't know that 100%. But yes, it looks like he probably broke his leg, so he may be out of the question in terms of spots. But in terms of your far DBs, Zach, you've already discussed it. It looks like Deuce and Zai are kind of separating themselves. And guys, it really seems like Stamps is kind of the next guy. From what I've heard, he's kind of the next guy in terms of wideout DBs. We'll see how that plays out. But I think Stamps and Denver are kind of your two guys that are running with the twos, and obviously Denver's even running with the threes at times. But I'm excited about the true freshman Ashton Stamps. I really am.
Doug said Happy Friday, Lee Bros. I remember the video of Stamps hanging with
yes
Jay Jets this summer. He's going to be a good one. And Steven, on the topic of Stamps, said, do you think Stamps can step up as a freshman like Campbell and Mason Taylor did? I don't know about that magnitude.
Right. They had huge impacts.
They were massive
starting left tackle
roles. I don't think Stamps is going to have that magnitude, but does he give some valuable playing time and do some things to impress potentially? Yeah.
Yeah, I do think he gets some minutes for sure.
But I don't say it's. Who knows? Yeah. I've been saying when they need somebody to step up, they need somebody to step up. Maybe Stamps is that guy that takes over, and ends up being the guy on one of the starting corner spots. I don't know. Who knows? We still got. It feels like it's around the corner, and it really is. Let's see. We've got 1, 2. We got like basically 3 weeks left.
Yep.
And then boom, we're playing Florida State. So, there's still 3 weeks to go, right? So there's still plenty of time for things to fluctuate and change. We're going to see how this secondary shapes out.
Yeah. But in terms of, the safety position, Major Burns, I think, is going to be your starter, obviously. Andre Sam seems to be the guy kind of arising there. If that doesn't work out, obviously you can go back to Greg Brooks being back there, and I'd be perfectly fine with that too.
We haven't even mentioned Sage Ryan.
I'm about to say Sage Ryan has been, obviously in kind of in a backup role at the nickel position so far.
So you could plug him at the nickel spot and put Greg back at the safety spot.
Yeah, no doubt. So there's pieces, like we talked about it. There is pieces there. How does it play out? I mean, how does we don't know yet. These guys have got to continue to battle for their spot. I think it would be like if we had to make a prediction, I think it'd be safe to say like Deuce and Zai, Andre, Burns, Brooks are kind of your opening look.
I agree.
Potentially.
The only thing I would change would be Greg at the other safety spot alongside Burns and Ryan, as we just mentioned. Sage Ryan at the nickel spot. But we'll see who LSU runs out there on day one.
Yeah. But again, I wanted to point out Ashton Stamps because I've really liked what I've been hearing about him, and I liked him as a recruit. I think he was he was like a 3-star, Zach, and I think he was overlooked because of his size. So.